Well, hello, everybody. It has been, I think, a little over a week since I have been here with you all. My hair is up today. I didn't feel like doing it, so here we are. But I'm wearing one of my Dragonfly dresses that I love so much. And here we go. So today is October 21st, Tuesday at 7 p.m. I'm going to read the safe messages and the welcome messages as always. Welcome to my podcast, Dragonfly Discussions. You're welcome to enter your name and location where you're from. I am thrilled you are listening, and I hope you enjoyed this session together. Also, the safe space reminder that I always read is please use your own safe space parameters amongst the chapters I read, which may arouse emotions or memories of your own. You are welcome to excuse yourself or stay. So, just want to put that out there. So, the last time we met was, I think it was the 8th, October 8th, and we are in chapter 3. We stopped at page 84, right when I had my first DUI accident in San Luis Obispo. I took a 25 mile per hour off ramp at like 65 miles per hour and flew over the guardrail and down in a ditch. And now I'm facing my consequences here on page 85, subchapter jail time. After that, I had to appear before a judge to receive my sentence. I was given an intermittent sentence, 2 weekends in jail, at a farm in San Luis Obispo. It was a facility for inmates that were considered less dangerous. For 2 weekends, I was taken by my parents to that farm where I would be locked in for the entire weekend. When I arrived, they immediately checked our belongings and made me strip naked. Then they began to do a thorough search of my entire body to make sure I didn't have anything hidden inside of me. That was a first. I was given a jumpsuit, a pair of underwear, a bra, a pair of socks, a set of sandals to wear, and a bag of stuff for free. And what I mean by like that is toilet paper, pencils, paper, a razor. I think that was it. Oh, I'm going to tell you. The item in the bag included a toothbrush, toothpaste, a comb. Oh, I forgot about those. Toilet paper, a towel. That's right, we had a small towel. A pencil and a few pieces of paper. Then I was taken to a large room that had dozens of bunk beds all along the walls. So I was in this huge room with all these girls and all this bunk beds, kind of like you see in the Army almost. All the girls were shouting and smiling and laughing in there. Everyone turned to look at me when I entered the room to find my place on a bunk bed. Yeah, it was very intimidated. Everyone looked at me. I was like, holy shit, where do I find my place? I felt very intimidated and scared. I was locked in there with criminals for the first time, and there was no getting out till Sunday night. I quickly learned how to behave there. I picked up on the rules of jail and jail etiquette pretty quickly. Yes, I did. I learned how to behave and respect everybody and not get killed or beat up or ruffle any feathers to extend your time, because a lot of times people would rough you up on purpose to get you to extend your time, and then you were screwed. So let's see. I picked up on the rules of jail and jail etiquette pretty quickly. Slowly, I even made a few friends and made the time pass easier. The facility had a big, wide open cage-like space outside that allowed us to sit outdoors, confined, but able to feel the air and sun on our faces. So it was like this big, long pod, and there was all the bunk beds, and then there was like a half wall where like the bathrooms were, showers and everything. And then you had to, I think, no, there was a side door before that, side door going to the cage. That's what I called it. It was this huge, big cage. And it was like high walls, but it had this cage ceiling. And you could hear the ocean. You could smell the ocean air. You could see the seagulls. You could hear the seagulls. It was like, it was the best paradise you could find in that place. And it was really neat to my consideration of what I am experiencing for the first time in jail. We would lie down on our backs and look up into the sky through the caged wires, sharing our dreams of getting out and what we would do if we were free. I would listen to those girls who were way worse than me. They would tell me stories of their lives, and I would think about how good I had it and how easy jail experience was for me. So it seemed pretty easy for me. And I compared myself that I wasn't that bad. I finished my 2 weekends in jail and served my time well. Then I had to pick up the pieces and work towards getting my license back, all the while still attending college and working. FBI calling. I wanted to go into the FBI. After my stint in jail, I was able to get a restricted license from the court, which allowed me to still drive. My parents helped me get an old Jeep Cherokee so that I could drive to work, school, and now the DUI school. It was a heavy burden to carry by that point, and I struggled with life. By the year 2000, I wanted to become a serial killer profile and be in the FBI. I know, big dreams, right? I have big dreams. It was Professor Dr. Hickey, who Dr. Hickey is actually a world-renowned FBI agent. Well, not FBI agent, but he's the FBI calls him a lot for advice on cases. Dr. Hickey is very well known. He's been on Nat Geo. He's been on A&E. He is a very renowned, what's it? It would be criminal psychologist. Yeah, criminal psychologist. So Dr. Hickey's class, Abnormal Psychology, the best class, Abnormal Psychology, which inspired me to go for a degree that I had never imagined for myself. I took down the Jim Morrison poster from the wall in my condo and put up 13 different serial cases in its place. So all along this wall, just like you see agents studying cases, they put stuff on the wall. So that's what I did. I put in a row 13 different serial killer cases and had their background, their education. There were points. There was their history, their method of killing, the age of the victims, how many victims, the location of the victims. I had to know all this detail for the final in the class to pass the class. At the top was the photo of the killer with their biography, including age of the victims, the method they used to kill, the motive of killing right underneath it. So, yeah. So it was their biography, including their age, and then the age of the victims, the method they used to kill, and the motive of killing right underneath it. So I had to learn all these profiles. I studied cases like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Richard Ramirez, the railroad killer, for an entire semester. I lived and breathed the cases of serial killers for months. When finals came, I passed them with flying colors, and I was thrilled. Then I shared with my professor how I was beginning to look at everyone around me in a subjective way, as if everyone was a potential serial killer. He told me that I needed to change my major because a good FBI agent must always remain objective. I felt crushed and a bit disappointed at that moment. I had worked hard for that final, for the new career path that I was focused on. But to hear his words ripped my dreams apart like paper being torn into shreds. Heroine of the story, page 87. The parking lot at my college was the usual spot where Brent and I used to meet when we were not in class. So we would hang out between class and between our breaks and whatnot. We'd hang out in the car and smoke pot, but we would just chill. We'd listen to music. It was a routine of ours to smoke marijuana and listen to music between classes. However, there was a day that I will never forget. Brent brought something new to the table for us to try, a new drug called heroin. He had known about the horror stories of Debbie, which is my birth mother, how she turned to heroin and it ultimately destroyed her. He knew that heroin was the one drug I wouldn't ever touch. It was a black tar substance. Unlike the white powder I would watch Debbie shoot up when I was a child. So my birth mom has always been a drug addict. She would shoot up heroin right in front of me, and this black tar substance was nothing like that. So I was a little bit more willing, I guess. It was different. Brent convinced me that it wasn't as powerful. Flashbacks of Debbie raced through my mind. I could see needles and track marks on her pale arms as if she were right in front of me. I was instantly afraid and felt like history was repeating itself at that very moment. How could this be happening to me? Brent began to show me the process of how to ingest it. He took a tiny amount of black tar that he called heroin and placed it on a spoon. Then he began to heat the substance with a lighter held under the spoon until it melted down. He allowed for it to cool before snorting all the liquid heroin into his nose through a straw, like cocaine. He gagged and sort of threw up afterward, but he was high instantly. I watched him lean back into his car seat and disappear into oblivion. Sadly, I wanted that escape too. So, with his help, I took my very first dose of heroin through my nose. It was an awful experience of the warm liquid went up my nose and down my throat. It was disgusting. Oh, I could taste its bitterness and began to gag, and then it ended. And there I was, leaning back in the passenger seat of the same car in complete heaven. I was in a coma and I loved it. At that moment, I had had my first dance with the devil. It was my worst demon yet. Afterward, I left Brent's car high as a kite and got into my car. It was time for me to get to my job at the restaurant. So I went to work high. I got to work and began my regular routine of tasks. I was now a manager at the time and had a lot of responsibilities. That night, I closed the restaurant with plans to party with Brent back at the condo and asked him to bring more heroin. That's how easy it started. Soon I got good at covering up the truth and hiding everything that was going on inside of me. I didn't use heroin every day, but it started creeping its way into my life like slow poison. My parents were focused on their jobs in the restaurant. My sister was off traveling, and my brother was taking care of the new business he had started. No one noticed how I was struggling with an entirely new demon by then. No one noticed. No one noticed. Everybody was off doing their own thing, and here I am just struggling and just about to go down the worst spiral of my life. I started using heroin at the restaurant when I would be on my shifts. I was a manager and had access to the private office, so I would often snort heroin sitting at the desk behind closed doors. What I didn't realize at the time was that heroin creeps on you fast, very fast. And before you know it, you're hooked. Like if you do it 2 or 3 times in a row, your body is already craving it. Your body is already wanting it and is already going to go through some kind of withdrawals if you don't have it again. Like it's that quick. If you use it for 5 days, 7, like you're screwed. Seriously. Seriously, you can't mess around with this stuff. Within weeks and months, I was using it every day, like alcohol and marijuana. Brent and I would get heroin from the west side of Fresno, which was the poor side of town. We were the only white people in that whole entire neighborhood. It was pretty dangerous. It's not, I mean, it is still now, but I just respect the people I know. They were good to me. They were really good to me. I never was raped, robbed. They let me come into their neighborhood and do bad things, and they knew what I was up against, what I was up doing. But the west side of Fresno holds a kind of a special heart. And I just had lunch over there, which was really neat, going down Kearney Boulevard and going over to the Chandler Airport. And there's a restaurant out there. There's Kearney Mansion. There's some really cool places over on the west side. Some really cool restaurants, some great food, soul food. But anyways, so the west side is kind of a poorer side of town. It's kind of like the roots of where Fresno started, honestly. It's the original part of where Fresno started is all the west side, downtown Fresno. That's all where Fresno started. And Chinatown, downtown, all of it. It's really beautiful history over there. We would stick out like sore thumbs because we were the only white people in this predominantly black neighborhood. He and I would go to alleys to meet people who would exchange heroin for money. So we would go down alleys and like literally there would be like a hole. And somebody would tell you, go to that hole. You like tap a couple times. Pray to God the cops don't come. You stick the money through. They then give you the heroin back and off you go. It's pretty sketchy. And hope that they give you real stuff and not bunk. Fake stuff that's dangerous, that's going to kill you. Then we would go back to my condo to snort it and get high. So I had this condo, for you who haven't been following. I had a condo that was set up by my parents across the street from Fresno State. It was fat. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, fireplace, backyard condo. It was gorgeous. My parents were pretty much paying the rent. I needed to get good grades and stay sober. And so that's what I mean by the condo. We were also constantly looking out for cops. So like I said, it was hot. You needed to get in and get out and go. He would introduce me to drug dealers, and they all would look at me with lust in their eyes, just the same way that all the bikers, when I was a kid, around my drunk birth mom, they would all look at me with lust. I mean, the same drug dealers would look at me like this pretty white girl. Let's take her, get her fucked up, do whatever we want with her. We would go into basements of houses. So we would go underneath these houses that were dirt. It was dirt. I mean, even the house in Exeter that I grew up in, there was a basement and it was a dirt staircase and it went underneath and it was all dirt because dirt is cold. It keeps food cold. It keeps things cold down there. Even in the summertime, it's cold. So there was these underground basements of these beautiful houses over the west side. There were these basements. And so we would go down in these basements and there would be people housed like like a bunch of homeless drug addicts. How, and I was blown away at the life of people. I was just blown away. And of course, here I am, a white girl thinking, oh, I'm never going to get that bad. Thank you. Thank you for the drugs. Bye. So we would go into these basements to get our drugs, and then we would get out. Crazy. We would go into the basements of houses where many heroin addicts and drug dealers would go to score drugs. So they would be sitting in there. They would be all getting high too. They'd be, some of them nodding out. Some of them would be passed out. Some of them would be outside going crazy. I don't even know. Anyways, in a way, Brent also taught me how to survive as a heroin addict. So going around all these neighborhoods, around all these people, he taught me like how to talk to them, how to deal with them, because I watched him. I'm like, okay. So here we are on page 89. This is not a fun part of drug addiction, but we're going to get through it. So not mother material is the subtitle. The year 2000 was also the year in which I had an abortion. I'm pro-choice, and this is why, and I'm grateful. I didn't know that the symptoms of pregnancy were similar to heroin sickness. So when I started experiencing these odd symptoms, I assumed it was heroin withdrawal. It wasn't until weeks later that I continued to have these odd cravings for pickles and tomato sandwiches when I realized it. So I was at the restaurant working, and I'm like, we would get free food, and I'm making these bizarre sandwiches, and I'm like, I still do love tomato cheddar sandwiches with mayo, toasted. But yeah, so I was mixing things. I was having these weird cravings, right? And I love pickles. And we'd always have a slice of dill pickle on your plate. I was chomping on those. I had also missed my period for a month and started to put the pieces together and wondered if I was pregnant. So I wasn't sure if I was just drug withdrawal, sickness. I wasn't sure at all. I wasn't sure. And my period has always been off. I've never been on time. But stuff started to add up, and I'm like, crap. And I was pretty promiscuous. I was having sex, unprotected sex at that time. I wasn't very good with my birth control. So anyways, I was scared and unsure about who the father was, even though I was pretty sure it was a guy named David. He was the last guy that I was with, and I was pretty sure it was him. He was the last guy I had had sex with. He hadn't worn a condom and did the pull-out method. Girls, never fall for the pull-out method, because there was pre-cum, and that pre-cum has live sperm in it. So if the guy wants to say, oh, don't worry, I don't need a condom, I'll just pull out real quick. No. So he wanted to do the pull-out method. I had known that it didn't work because there is pre-cum before a man fully ejaculates. And there could be sperm in pre-cum, quite possibly. Not possibly, there is. There is live sperm in male pre-cum. Don't believe any guy who tells you otherwise. Look it up. Do your research. It's true. So I went to the store and bought a pregnancy test. On that fateful day, I discovered that I was pregnant. I knew I wasn't done using drugs, nor was I in any position to be a mother. Thoughts of Debbie and how terrible of a mother she was to me raced through my head. How could I give up drugs and carry a baby full term without a husband or any kind of stability in my life? So I'm thinking really mature thoughts here. I'm not just being stupid here. I'm really contemplating this. This is a huge decision. I'm pregnant with a life in my body. I was never genuinely interested in being a mother anyways. I really never had that. I never had that desire to be a mom. I really never did. I was an annoying kid. I didn't want an annoying child. I didn't want to put up with all their mess. I didn't want to put up with the rest of my life being tied to this child. I knew I wasn't mom material. I've always known it. I've always not wanted to be a mom. I love animals, don't get me wrong. I love being an animal mom, but a human child, it's just not in me. Like, it's just not in me. And that's okay. Some of us women don't have that natural desire to be a mom. We don't, but we're fabulous in other areas. We're caring, we're loving, we're giving, we're compassionate. We're everything that a mom can be to other areas, just not a human child. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So I was never genuinely interested in being a mother anyway. The title scared me to death, actually. It really did. And it did for a long time. I didn't want a child or to be a mom. Parents and teachers are the two most important roles in life. So your parents are the number one role in a life of a person, and teachers are also the second to me, the most important role you can have in a person's life. Those two, and I wasn't a teacher, and I'm not about ready to be a mom. I can barely help myself, right? I mean, I'm messed up. I wasn't interested in being a parent. I was barely surviving on my own, and so I decided to tell my parents that I was pregnant. My parents took it very hard, being devout Catholics, but everyone knew that an abortion was the best choice considering the circumstances. I happened to tell a girl at work, Zabeth, that I was pregnant. She was good natured and basically the only one I could talk to at the time. Just before the abortion day, she gave me a blue stuffed animal dog. He was really soft and had 4 floppy paws. She told me to take it with me and hold on to it while I was in surgery. I named the stuffed dog Baz in honor of Zabeth, as it was the first 3 letters of her name reversed. So Zabeth. So the first 3 letters Zab, I reversed it to Baz, Baz. And I named the dog that. And I wish I still had that dog. I've tried to look for it on Amazon, but I cannot find the replica of that dog. It was the cutest dog. It was dark blue, and it had like the greatest little fur, and it was soft, and it had like the little beanie type feet that are like a beanbag in the feet, and they were heavy in the feet, but then like skinny along the legs, and it was like floppy. It was just so floppy, and it would flop on my neck, and I could cuddle it and love it. And I'm not a stuffed animal person really at all, but that dog, I don't know, that dog just really meant something to me. And it helped me. It really helped me through my abortion for some reason. Abortion day arrived, and I held Baz under my arm as I went under anesthesia. It wasn't an easy decision for any of us, and I cried for days afterwards. I really did. I cried for days after what I had done. I would think about the gender if it could have been. I'm sorry. I think about the gender it could have been and the life I had just ended. I decided on names in my heart after that day. If it would have been a girl, she was going to be named Shelby Dawn. If it was a boy, he was going to be named Noah Donald, both with names with meaning for my father, Don. And I should have elaborated more there, but my dad really didn't want me to be named Shy, which is my birth name, Shy, and then my middle name, Ann. He didn't really like that. My birth mother, Debbie, had to have her way. The Ann part comes from my grandmother, Marianne. So my dad really would have liked to have had his name incorporated somehow into my name. And he liked the name Shelby. And so I was going to name my daughter Shelby Dawn, Dawn, because my dad's name is Dawn, Don. So the girl would have been named Shelby Dawn in honor of my father's wishes. And then if it was going to be a boy, it was going to be named Noah Donald. So the first name would have been Noah, and then middle name Donald, again after my dad. So I kind of just did that in my heart and said, okay, baby, you're going to go to heaven with these names. I don't know what sex you are, but here you are to the universe, and made peace with it. I just had to make peace with it. So here we are. Oh my gosh. Here we are, page 91, where Brent, the guy, and I who are using drugs, we decide to come up with this wonderful idea. We're struggling with our addiction. Our parents are starting to become aware. And so I'm like, let's just get away from Fresno. Let's just get away from the drugs. Let's just go and put ourselves somewhere where we can detox, and then we'll come back and we'll be fine. Right? So this is titled Grand Misery at the Grand Canyon. Later in the year 2000, Brent and I began talking about traveling to the Grand Canyon. It actually was, it still is one of my dreams of mine. I hope to someday take a mule and go down the North Rim, spend some time in the valley down low, and then take a mule ride back up the south. It's less steep going up the south than it would be up the north. It's better to go down the north and up the south. And then down in the valley is like all this beautiful trails, greenery, flowers and trees and waterfalls. And from what I understand, there's kind of like some hospitality down there where you can stay. So that was just a dream of mine. So I'm like, let's just go scout it out. Okay. By the time 2001 came, we began to put our plans in motion for our trip to the Grand Canyon. My sister had returned home from her travels across the U.S. by then. She would often come over to the condo on evenings or weekends to visit with me. So my sister was a hippie traveling around the world. She dropped out of college and she followed the Grateful Dead, and then Jerry Garcia died, and then she followed the Fish and lived in a VW bus doing her thing. And so she would come home, and so she would come over to the condo and she would visit with me and party, because she partied. She was into pot, drinking, acid, whatever. She wasn't into the hard drugs. She was not into the hard drugs like cocaine, heroin, meth, crank, any of that stuff. Let's see. It usually involved a party of some sort with all of our friends. So her friends and my friends would all come over, drinking and doing drugs. I didn't hide much from my sister often, even using the hard drugs in front of her. I would be in the kitchen or bathroom snorting heroin while she would be in the living room. So she knew I was into some nasty drugs by this point. So she knew. Unbeknownst to me, she informed our parents again that they needed to keep a closer eye on me. Around March of 2001, the day of our trip to the Grand Canyon arrived. By that point, both our parents knew about our heroin addiction and were keeping tabs on us. Brent and I decided that if we went to the Grand Canyon without any heroin, we could detox and come back sober with our families supporting us, and everything would be good again. Da, 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 da. Without any heroin on our backs, we set sail in my vehicle, as I was always the one to drive, and I still am. I'm always the one to drive. I was thrilled and had done tons of research about the North Rim, South Rim, and all the waterfalls in the canyon. When we arrived, I was shocked by how beautiful, wide, and colorful it was. If you ever get to go to the Grand Canyon, oh my God, it is amazing, absolutely amazing that it was all carved by a river, by just a river. Carved that huge, vast canyon. I had never seen anything like it before, and all my research didn't prepare me for the reality of its beauty. It captured me and took my breath away. It really did. It's the most beautiful thing. It's the most beautiful, beautiful sight. Oh my gosh. Someday I'll go back. Brent was starting to get heroin sick. So we got to the park. We're seeing the Grand Canyon. We're like there. And now Brent's starting to get sick. I'm not, because apparently I wasn't using as much as him. He was using much more than I was, little to my knowledge. So he was already starting to get sick. Because it's like a 9-hour drive to Arizona, from Fresno, California to the Grand Canyon. It's like a 9, 10, I don't even know. It's a long drive. It's almost the same, I think, to Vegas, if not longer. Yeah. And we needed to get to the hotel quickly. So we had our hotel already booked. And so we needed to get to the hotel so that we can start detoxing. I hadn't known at the time that it would be my only time seeing the Grand Canyon as things began to change with Brent. He was beginning to show sign of heroin sickness. I tried to help Brent kick heroin while I also started to have withdrawal symptoms. For the next dreadful 24 hours, both of us cried out in pain and agony as our bodies began convulsing from the withdrawals. The withdrawals from heroin are no joke. No joke. But there are worse withdrawals, but it's pretty bad. Brent was way worse than I was, and I realized how much more he had been using than me. But I was in a lot of pain too. I sat and held Brent in my arms while he sweated through his clothes, shaking and running to the bathroom to vomit quickly. I observed how we rocked ourselves in a fetal position on the bed just so we could fall asleep. Literally, we would rock, and just something about it just helped us fall asleep somehow. We could barely eat, let alone muster up the strength to walk. It was terrible. I started to feel better within 48 hours, but Brent was still really bad. And I knew I had to get him home so I could get him help. I drove back to California as fast as I could while Brent got worse. So literally, I'm starting to feel a little better. I'm able to get us home, and I drove our asses all the way home from Arizona as fast as I could to get him help. The drive back seemed to last forever. When we returned home, our parents told us that we were done with our behavior and separated us immediately. Brent and I could no longer see each other. His parents put him in a drug rehabilitation center while I convinced my parents that AA and NA were better for me because I wasn't as bad as Brent. A true con artist drug addict. They believed me once again, and I began to attend AA and NA meetings. My parents were now watching me with a closer eye and took away my car, selling it, and buying me an electric scooter. They thought that could stop me. After begging them, I still needed an easier way of transportation. Come on, I still need to get around to all my responsibilities. I was also fired as a manager from my parents' restaurant. Yep, they fired me. And I gave up on college entirely. So I dropped out of college. This was my low. All of my dreams came crashing down, and I knew that I needed to focus on myself and on staying sober. My parents insisted on me getting involved with AA, NA, and trying to find a sponsor, perhaps. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and Narcotics Anonymous, NA, are two establishments for people struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. It is a free place to go where there are people who have beat their own alcohol and drug addictions. They share their struggles with those still struggling. They have meetings all over town at churches and schools where people can go freely and openly without judgment. It is a safe place to go. My parents thought that it would be good for me so that I would have other people around me who were also struggling, people that I could talk to and perhaps get their help to get me out of my own personal hell. I quickly learned how it would work in those meetings. I learned that not everyone in those meetings was there for good reasons, nor did they want to be sober. I was taught all about the 12 steps of recovery and working towards trusting someone enough, preferably a female, to be my sponsor. A sponsor is someone who usually has over 5 years of sobriety, and they help guide you through the 12 steps, being a person of strength and experience for you. The meetings consist of a group of people sitting in a circle sharing their problems. It seemed to me that the people there just wanted to share their stories about drugs and glorifying their addiction. It seemed like no one there was to get sober. Or if so, they were older with lots of years of sobriety and couldn't relate anymore to the current times. So I'd be sitting there with a bunch of people who were either older with a bunch of sobriety and out of reality of what it's like to be a current drug addict, or there were drug addicts that were sitting in there who were barely clean, maybe a day or so, maybe had drugs on them, and sharing and glorifying about using drugs. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, this is not what I want to hear. I'm here to try to get better. But there's not everybody in those meetings who want to get better. So be careful. Be very careful when you go into AANA. And I'm not trying to speak bad about NAA. It's a really great program for those who it works for. Everybody has to find their own program. Not every program will work for everyone. So I'm glad I tried it. I figured it wasn't for me. So I bounced. But please be careful. There are people there who will 13 step you. They will go beyond the 12 steps and get you all riled up in a relationship. They'll hit on you, make you feel all good, and then you relapse. So you have to be really, really careful in NA and AA, in any kind of meeting like that. SA, that's Sex Anonymous. There's all kinds of, there's FA, Fentanyl Anonymous now. So there's a lot of variety. Just please be careful. Let's see, we're at 7:43. I think I'm going to stop here. I know it's kind of early, but we're getting into my heroin addiction more. And we're going to go into another car accident. And it's going to get pretty intense. Yeah. Yeah, we have quite a bit left of chapter 3. But I think I'm going to stop here. Yeah, we're going to stop here before we get deep into my heroin addiction, because these last few sections are pretty intense. With a car accident, and we're going into 9/11. 9/11, 2001. Not only did we lose a lot of people from the terrorists that attacked the Twin Towers, but I was on a race across town for drugs, and my whole entire life changed. So we're going to stop on page 94, subchapter My Friend Miss Needle. And I appreciate you all listening. We have our return interview. We had a hiccup on, I can't remember when, it was 10/11. It was October 11th. I was supposed to be interviewing my dear friend Rhonda, in the CMAX studios. And we were all set up and everything was going well until I realized that I had set it to, and I didn't know it at the time, but now I know, but I had set it to live stream. And live stream on YouTube, you need to have some kind of software. Well, I don't. I just do live camera through the webcam. And so I didn't have the settings. And I'm all freaking out there in the studio, panicking because we're already like 10, 15 minutes past the time. And I'm like, shit, excuse my language, but let's just cancel it. We'll do it another day. And I was so disappointed. I felt so bad for my dear guest, Rhonda. And she was so sweet and understood. And then we went to lunch. We had a wonderful lunch over at Skyline Cafe, over at Chandler Airport. If you ever get a chance to go to Skyline Cafe, Chandler Airport, Fresno, California, off of Kearney Boulevard over on the west side. It is the cutest restaurant in the world. You get to see airplanes flying and landing. It's got airplanes hanging all over. It's got the old black and white checkered floor. It's got the old nostalgic airplane. It's like an airplane depot waiting station like you would expect back in the early 1900s. It's the original, I think it's 1928, I think it is, this Chandler Airport. And at first, I think the walls, it says it was once a ballpark or an amusement park. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Don't quote me. But we had a wonderful lunch. Anyways, long story short, we are rescheduling our interview, Rhonda Martin, here at my house. Forget the studio. We're doing it here this Saturday, the 25th of October at 11 a.m. Please join us. Rhonda is the sweetest lady. She has a great story. And I used to work with her at UPS, and she's just such a delight. And she comes to my church at UU Church of Fresno, Unitarian Church of Fresno. So I hope you'll join us October 25th, this Saturday at 11 a.m. So stay tuned, and then we will be back full circle reading from chapter 3, October 28th at 7 p.m. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Know you are loved. Bye.